tell us more about this God story, kind of where you wanted to start with it, kind of where God took you, and we're really excited to hear it.
I just am so blessed to have had this much water under the bridge. So I was trying to view it from that perspective as I sat there quivering, shivering, afraid of what I was going to hear. So the female pulmonologist comes in, and she said, she opened the chart, and she sat there for what seemed forever, and I was sweating, and she said, Deborah, I don't know how to say this to you. And I'm like, oh dear. And she said, your tumor is no longer there. Where it used to be is now two tiny little pebbles. It was a boulder, and now it's two tiny little pebbles that are dense, non-malignant, and we don't need to see you anymore.
You're listening to Altered Stories with Michelle Gutch.
Hey, friends. We are getting ready for the holiday season, right? So do you feel like you're sinking in the stress pool of your life right now? Are you ready to laugh and refresh your tired spirit? Well, my special guest today will be sharing her own personal story of attempting something big and how she is too blessed to be stressed. This is your chief storyteller host, Michelle Saunders Gutch, and you are listening to the Altered Story Show Season 4, Episode 170, featuring my special guest here, Debora Coty, who will be sharing her attempting something big God story. This show, friends, shares transformational Christian women's God stories from all over the world so women can hear them and never feel alone. So thanks for listening and viewing my show. And if one of our God stories blesses you, then consider blessing us with a pay-it-forward donation to help other women share their God story. And friends, one quick thing to celebrate today. I'm excited to share that my new healing memoir, 30 devotional book, The Story Within You, The Healing Power of Your Story, can be purchased on Amazon, both the Kindle and paperback version. God is good. So now, here is what you need to know about my lovely guest here, Debora. I'm going to give you a quick little tidbit of her. She's a seasoned speaker, certified writing coach, and an award-winning author of over, 200 articles and 50 inspirational books, including the best-selling Too Blessed to Be Stressed series with over 2 million books sold in multiple languages. Debora loves and laughs in Central Florida, wowza, with her husband of 47 years and Laz, her resurrection dog. That's a God story in itself, she says. So welcome to the show, Debora. How are you doing today? Is there anything else about you that you will not be sharing with my audience in your God story that you'd like them to know?
Just that I always like to look for the funny, and that is where my dog Laz, short for Lazarus, got his name. He was a miracle. He died on the veterinary table. His heart stopped, and they were able to resurrect him in a miracle. He's a little 8-pounder, so he's not much to him. And when he came home, his name was, before, for the 8 years we've had him since we got him from the rescue, his name has been, he's Laz, but he was Yaz after Carl Yastrzemski, my husband's favorite baseball player. So Yaz came home, and he was like a blank slate. He didn't know where his food bowl was, where his toys were. He had been out for so long, he was starting over. So I told my husband the story, and he said, well, we have to change his name to reflect this miracle. He was Yaz, and now he's Laz for Lazarus, the resurrection dog.
Hey, that's a great story. So that kind of moves me into the next question because, I love stories. I'm all about stories, God's stories,
Hmm.
resurrection stories. So, why do you think that women should be sharing their God stories? Why is it important for women to share, those stories?
I think it's because we need to know what is possible. We tend to get in our little blinders in our little world, and we see just only the things that our human eyes can see, and we don't become aware of all the spiritual wonderfulness that is out there unless we hear other people's stories that celebrate the things that God is doing in their lives and other people's lives. And I think that's so important. I love podcasts like yours. I love to listen to them, and I know your readers do, because we leave refreshed and renewed and rejuvenated because of the stories.
Yeah, it's so uplifting. It's so encouraging. It just, needs to be out there for discouraging days because we all have struggles, right?
Yes. Yes.
So we're going to hear about yours now. And you have an attempting something big God story. So, Deborah, tell us more about this God story, kind of where you wanted to start with it, kind of where God took you, and we're really excited to hear it.
Well, I didn't start writing until I was old. Uh, I was 45 years old and sitting in a dentist office and praying for something. I knew that there was something God had for me, but I didn't know what it was. My youngest chick was about to fly the coop. I had been working as an occupational therapist for 35 years at that point, and a piano teacher for 30. And I knew there was something I was missing. So as I sat there in that dentist office praying, I said, Lord, I'm dense. You're going to have to hit me over the head with it because I'm dense. And it takes a lot for me to finally tune in and hear you. And as I was praying, I reached down and picked up a magazine, randomly flipped it open, and there was a writing contest in there. And I had not written anything since high school at that point. That was 25 years prior. I accept medical charts because I was in the medical profession. And the light bulb just went on inside my head. I always, as a child, had wanted to write. I love to read, which is, I learned later, the prerequisite for becoming a good writer was
Yep.
read everything you could get your hands on. And I was a rabid reader. I foamed at the mouth for anything I could read.
Yeah.
But I had no experience. So as I sat there and praying about it, God hit me over the head with it. So I found a friend of a friend who had some experience with Christian magazine articles, and she helped me along. We met at Starbucks for an hour a week, and she helped me not look like an amateur, which is the key to getting published in magazines
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
really any kind of publishing.
Yeah.
So, but that first year, I was blessed to be able to have 10 articles published in Christian magazines, and it grew from there.
Wow.
That was about 22 years ago now, and fast forward 22 years, and I've had over 50 books published with the two Blessed to be Stressed series, and that was all Papa God. That was all his doing, and we were going great guns, and then the pandemic hit. And
Yeah.
I lost a lot. I know a lot of people did. And a lot of your listeners are probably nodding their heads right now. But within the 3-year period through 2020 through 2023, I had 7 debilitating losses, and they just wiped me out. We had 5 close family members that we lost, including one by suicide. I lost
Oh.
2 of my beloved pets, which I just love my fur babies. I lost my job. which I had at the time in occupational therapy. I lost both my knees. I have been a tennis player since I was 10 years old. It is my avocational passion. And I adore hitting a little ball, swatting my frustrations out on that little ball on the court. But
Yeah.
I had to have bilateral knee replacements, and the results were not at all what we had anticipated. My husband was diagnosed with cancer during that time.
Why?
I was diagnosed with a sleep disorder, which I was only able to get 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night for years. And it was very difficult to go on that, just small amount of sleep. We went through a devastating divorce with one of our children where I was witness to abuse and kidnapping by their father, their biological father. And it was just traumatic. It was horrible. It was a season of lots of loss and lots of sorrow. And then right toward the end of that, and about 23, I received, I thought I was done writing. Up until then, my Too Blessed to Be Stressed books, I felt like I was too stressed to be blessed. And I just couldn't look for the funny anymore, which was my trademark, humor, through all of those books. And I couldn't write that way anymore. I couldn't even think that way anymore. And in the midst of that, I received notification from a publisher whom I didn't know, a traditional publisher. And he said, Miss Debbie, I'm sitting here with your book in my lap. I've got Too Blessed to Be Stressed open in front of me, a devotional. He called it a devotional. And he said, I want one. And I said, you want me to send you one? He said, no, I've got one right here. I want you to write one for my company. And I said, oh, a 365? He said, oh, yeah. I said, no, no.
That's what I would have said.
Oh, no. I had sworn off of those when I wrote one for Too Blessed to Be Stressed. And it took me over a year, and it was the hardest thing I ever wrote. 365 topics with 365 scriptures. And
oh my gosh, gal, I can't imagine.
No, I thank you, but no. And so he said, no, really think about it, pray about it. And I said, how about 390s? And he said, no. I said, how about 430s? He said, no. No, I want a 365. So I prayed about it. And I was saying, oh, no, I can't go through that again, and it'll be extra hard now after all these losses and living in sorrow all this time. And as I was convincing myself not to, I look up at my computer desk. I have all these things that have been meaningful to me throughout my writing career all around my computer desk. And I saw one. It was a quote from Corrie ten Boom, which has ministered to me so much. And it was attempt something so big that unless God intervenes, it is sure to fail. And I said, well, heavens, if anything ever qualified, this 365 deal here, this is going to qualify. So I started praying about it, and darned if Corrie didn't get to me. She snuck in through the back door. And I finally one day said, you're telling me, Lord, to do this, aren't you? And I felt a peace about it. So I started, and a year and a half later, I've just finished Bless Your Heart, which is a whole different series from the Too Blessed to Be Stressed series. But you can see how I'm dwelling on blessings. So Bless Your Heart is the title of this one. Daily devotions to warm your heart and feed your soul. And it's been an eye-opener for me. It was not without difficulty. The 2 days before Christmas, I thought I was finished. I had turned in my final draft. I thought we were good. As a writer, you know that rewriting is half of writing.
Yes.
You hate it. You hate
yes,
that part.
You do. It
happens.
has to be done.
And 2 days before Christmas last year, the publisher said, I have some bad news for you. We need your editor is requesting rewrites on about 120 of these readings out of 365. And we need them by January 5th. And I said, what? so all through Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, I'm rewriting and I'm rewriting and finally got it finished. Then, as many of the American publishers do, the books are finally published. Well, I should say printed in China. So off the book goes to China, and the tariffs come down the pike. And China's pretty mad
Oh.
about these tariffs.
Oh,
So
yes.
they heist my book. They take my
Oh, no. Oh,
they,
no.
they held my book captive in container ship with a bunch of other stuff in a port somewhere between here and China for not 1 month, not 2 months, but 3 months. So it was supposed to release in July. August came and went. It never, finally, it's now out. Yeah.
Oh, congrats,
And
congrats,
it
Deborah.
was way, way delayed. But anyway, so, that's pretty much a lesson to me that when I do think that I can't do it in my own ability, and I can't, and, so many things that we are called to do, at first glance, we can't. We pale. We panic. We can't. But God can. And it's been wonderful learning that lesson again.
Well, friends, now this is a good time to take a mental health tip break with Sherry.
Today I had to work late, and a friend of mine who has an office in the same building that I do, she yelled at me and said, "Sherry, come in here and grab one of these candy bars off the table." And so I went in there, grabbed that candy bar, and I said, "Thanks for dinner." And then another coworker said, "What do you mean you cannot have candy for dinner?" And I said, "Well, just watch me." We just kind of laughed it off. It's no big deal. But in reality, I know that I cannot have candy for dinner and I cannot feed my body junk food without paying the price for it. With, just feeling sick and not motivated and sluggish, and it's not good. Did you know that we need to feed our minds a balanced diet as well? Let me explain. We live in the world, so we have to know what's going on in the world. So it's important to keep track of things that's going on so that you know how to pray and how to prepare. And so I'm not saying to live in a bubble. We have to know what's going on. But there's a difference between knowing, like having knowledge come into your mind, and meditating. And let me explain this. Philippians 4:8, God tells us to keep your thoughts continually fixated on all that is authentic and real, honorable and admirable, beautiful and respectful, pure and holy, merciful and kind, and fasten your thoughts on every glorious work of God, praising Him always. You see, meditation means that I am fixated on this thing. God wants us to be fixated on Him. And when our thoughts are fixated on Him and what He is doing in the world, when we hear about calamity and difficulties in this world happening, we have the ability to pray for that thing in faith and walk in our authority in Jesus. And most of all, we can have peace through it all. I hope that helps. Thanks so much.
Okay, so Deborah, wowza. You got your book. It's here. It's
Finally.
been released. And tell me, what are some tidbits from that book that you'd like to share since, it's now here and we want people to go out and buy that book now. I mean, gosh darn, there's a lot to get it to where it is.
Yes, indeed.
But do share a little bit about, what my audience can take from that.
Well, I try to write a lot of stories. In fact, every one of those 365 readings have a story in them because I love stories like you. And anecdotes to me speak louder than anything else. I talk about a lot of different things. Some are miracles, some are in the form of blessings. And I talk about how to get a BOGO on blessings. BOGO, if you're standing in the grocery store, you know that means buy one, get one, right?
Mhm.
Get one free. And it occurred to me one day as I was standing in the produce section looking at the bananas that were on BOGO, I remembered a verse that I had just found recently that really fit into my new book, Bless Your Heart. It was from 1 Peter 3:9, the Message translation. And it says, bless. That's your job, to bless. You will be a blessing and also get a blessing. So instead of buy one, get one free, it's be one, get one. Blessings. And that ministered to me, and I'd love to share that with other people.
Okay.
As well as grace notes, what I call grace notes, which are little mini miracles. I was a piano teacher for 30 years. So any of your musicians in your audience will recognize that grace notes are those little teensy notes besides the regular notes that they're not essential for the melody, but they add breadth and depth and beauty to the score.
Mhm.
And that's
Mhm.
what Papa God does for us with our blessing, our grace notes in our lives. He's there, he's aware, and he cares. And that's how he shows us through those little grace notes that get our attention and show us that he has our backs. And I cover lots and lots of grace notes in the devotional. And one that I'll share was recently happened to me. Actually, there's so many. I will give you this one.
Okay.
About 10 months ago, I went to the pulmonary specialist because I have to go every few years. They assume, born with a tumor in my left lower lobe, and it has grown with me, and it has gotten very large. It was the size
Mm.
they said a baseball. So they've been watching it because it was not cancerous for all these years, but they were afraid it could turn that way.
Mm.
So I went and to have my normal CAT scan, and they took it and they came back and said, you need to come in. We need to talk to you. There's a change. So I was like, oh dear. So I went in and I was nervous and I was afraid I was going to hear some really bad news. And this is recently. So this was on top of all my other losses that I had been dealing with. And I
Wow.
was able to consider um, it a grace note that I had this many years. I'm getting close to that big 7-0, but I'm not there yet. And I just am so blessed to have had this much water under the bridge. So I was trying to view it from that perspective as I sat there quivering,
Yeah.
shivering, afraid of what I was going to hear. So the female pulmonologist comes in and she said, she opened the chart and she sat there for what seemed forever. And I was sweating, "Ugh." And she said, Deborah, I don't know how to say this to you. And I'm like, oh dear. And she said, your tumor is no longer there. Where it used to be is now two tiny little pebbles. It was a boulder, and now it's two tiny little pebbles that are dense,
Mhm.
non-malignant, and we don't need to see you anymore.
Oh, wow. That is
I mean,
such
my
a blessing for
feet hit the
you.
ground, and I was so stunned and in shock it wasn't until after I left there and went out to the parking lot that I began to cry and praise God right there,
Oh,
do my little praise
yeah.
dance right there in the parking lot all by myself, had my little
Oh,
church, my prayer meeting out there, and, realized, wow, wow. And, there's so many instances on lesser degrees and even greater degrees that Papa God sends us blessings these days in the form of healing, in the form of love that we take for granted sometimes, in all kinds of forms. And I try to point those out in the book.
wow. Well, friends, you need to go out and get this book because we all need this kind of encouragement when we go through these trials. I mean, Deborah, you went through so many hard things. Like, did you feel like you were Job? I
Oh,
mean,
yes.
unbelievable everything in your life, all around you,
Well,
family,
interesting.
job,
Yes.
career. loved ones, messes in, your your or other family, it just was a culmination of so many
Truly.
hard things. How in the world did you keep your faith going?
Well, interestingly enough, I did go to the book of Job a lot, but the what really ministered to me most was the story of Joseph, which
Mhm.
doesn't seem like it's related. But Joseph, I guess during this time when I was in sorrow and I was feeling sorry for myself as well, um, I was taking what I call snark bait. When somebody would be mean or snarky to me, I would just give it right back to them. And I call that taking the snark bait. And I would have a feeding frenzy some days with people who were rude to me, or in fact, came to a head one day. And one of the devotions is about this very topic. I was on the phone with a woman who was obviously having a horrendous day. She was supposed to be tech support, and she was anything but. She was rude and she was nasty, and I was ready to let her have it when I
Ugh.
realized that I was taking the snark bait big time. And the
Mhm.
story of Joseph had been so meaningful to me because when his brothers sold him into slavery, he went over to Egypt. Later, many years later, they came over to buy grain. He saved their lives. And he said to them, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. And he returned their evil
Mhm.
for good,
Mhm.
and their kindness for, he gave them kindness when they gave him unkindness.
Right.
And I realized I needed to work on my Joseph attitude. It pretty much
Mhm.
stunk to high heaven.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I had been working on that in my mind. But when it came time to face this lady and blast her out of the water, I was ready to do that. And the Lord brought it to my mind right then. Don't
Mhm.
take the snark bait. Be a Joseph. Be a Joseph. So I was able to actually minister to her on the phone. And she, after a few more snarks and my returning kindness instead of snark bait back, she broke down, and she was a young woman, and she said, "Oh, I'm just having the worst day. You have no idea. My baby's in the other room sick, and she can't stop crying, and I'm working from home, and I have this terrible cold, and I need to go to bed." And, she just went on and on. And I was able to sympathize with her as one mom to another, a mom who's been there with a mom who
Mhm.
is there. And
Mhm.
there's so much strength in that.
Mhm.
And she was ministered to. She was not a Christian, but I even prayed for her before we hung up. And her whole attitude changed by the time we finished our conversation.
Mhm.
And that just was kind of like the culmination of me understanding that, yes, we all go through bad days. We go through bad months. Sometimes we go through bad years. But nevertheless, we can still have a Joseph attitude, and we don't have to take that out on other people. We can return their unkindness with kindness.
Mhm. Wow. Well, all I can say is thank you for sharing that. And geez, what a blessing. And I think God just really blessed your socks off when you started doing that. I mean, wow. That's great wisdom and great for all of us during this crazy holiday season. And, it gets stressful. And then the world, with all the other things that go on, and even in our own personal lives and health, health setbacks and frustrations if you're an employer and with the others that work for you or with you, or people that are, you know, just trying to be independent entrepreneurial people, or people in small businesses, or people at it, in the government that don't have jobs, or people that are getting laid off, or in their careers. And I mean, there's so much that this
Yes.
can cover.
And
And
I think it's
so
a matter of our perspective too. I like the saying, "There's no rest for the blessed." People who are blessed and realize it,
Uh-huh.
they are always looking to bless other people, to
Yeah.
be that blessing BOGO, be one and get one and give one. And if we can change our perspective to we're not dumped on, but we are blessed, we have air in our lungs, we can feel, we can, move, we can see. My
Yeah.
knees may not work as well as they used to, but I can still get from here to the kitchen and get myself a chocolate chip cookie. So I am blessed.
Yes, I love that, and we all need to carry that into the hard seasons in our life and hard days, and I really appreciate all of what you've shared here, and what, uh, would you like to share in closing, including maybe the details of where you can get your book and how people can reach out to you? Anything that you feel you want to share there.
Well, as a word of encouragement to those listening who may be in the bad spot right now, in the hard times, um, the thing that I would say above all is to keep seeking the presence of Papa God, His presence.
Hmm.
That's the key to everything, to changing our perspective, to having the strength to make it through. It's His strength that we tap into, and we get that through His presence. So stick to the Bible, stick to your devotions, stick to your prayer every day, and seek His presence. My book, my new one, the old one's Too Blessed to Be Stressed, and Bless Your Heart, the new one, can be found at my website, which is deboracoty.com, spelled a little funky, Debora. There's no H on the Deborah, and Coty is with a T, Coty. Wild Bill was with a D, but we're with a T. So deboracoty.com. And I have a wonderful, wonderful community of what I call BFFs, Blessed Friends Forever, at my website related to my blog. And if someone would like to join us, we would love to have you. It's a fun-loving group of crazy ladies who love Jesus, and we love each other. And we would love to have you just subscribe to the blog and then chime in whenever I post a blog, which is weekly. Please do comment, and everyone will comment back. And it's an awesome group to be affiliated with and to get a girlfriend. We need girlfriends. We need that. And if you're at a low on that right now, come on down, deboracoty.com, and we've got plenty we can share. And I also have a whole lot of giveaways on my website. I have one going on right now, and the prize package is right there visible. You just go to the drop box that says freebies and click on the giveaway that's going right now. In fact, everybody who enters is going to get a free prize. And then we're going to have the drawing for the big prize. So
Big.
hopefully you'll visit us, and I'd love to meet you and have you as a new BFF.
Awesome. Well, so friends, this is a great way to end. Thanks again for taking your time, Deborah, sharing your God story. I know that your story is going to bless so many, and I can't wait to share this. And friends, we'll have this episode up on our website, as we always do for our esteemed guests like Deborah. We do set up a page, and then all of the details, including the links to where you can go listen to the episode on her website and all that. So thanks again. Be blessed, everyone. And until the next show, be heard and be healed.
Altered Stories Ministry is a faith-based, nonprofit, and women's evangelistic storytelling ministry. If you enjoyed listening to today's story, your family and friends would probably benefit from hearing how God works in the lives of women all over the world, too. So please, subscribe to our show and share the link to this podcast. Share it on your social media. We also welcome your valued feedback on our stories. Also, we'd appreciate your prayerful consideration in sponsoring one of our future God-glorifying stories, and welcome your tax-exempt financial donation. To find out more on how you can support our ministry, you can log on to our website at www.alteredstories.org.